Hi everybody, it's Mrs Copeman. How are all of you? I hope you're having a lovely Easter holidays. I thought I would come and read you a story. This story is called Mog and the Granny. The author and the illustrator was Judith Kerr. So she did the pictures and she did the writing. One day, Mog was waiting for Debbie to come home from school. Mog always knew when Debbie was coming. She didn't know how she knew, she just knew. Suddenly, a picture would come into her head of Debbie coming down the road. Then she would go to meet her. Debbie said, "School's all finished for the summer, Mog. Isn't it exciting?" Mog said nothing. She liked things to be the same. Inside the house, everyone was excited too. Mrs. Thomas was packing. Mr. Thomas was looking for something important. Nicky was dancing and singing a song he had made up. "We're going to America where the skyscrapers are. We're not going by train but on an aeroplane. We'll see all the sights and it will be very surprising because they have the days when we have our nights." Debbie said, "You can't come, Mog, but you're going to stay at Granny's house. She'll look after you until we come back." Next day, Mog went to the Granny's house. The Granny was old and had very thin legs. First, Mog thought she had 3 legs. Then she saw that one of them was a stick. Debbie said, "Goodbye, dear Mog." The Granny said, "I'll look after Mog and she'll have my Tibbles for company." Mog thought, "Tibbles? Nobody told me that there was another cat. At least he sounds quite small." Tibbles had been small to start with, but then he had grown. "Here's a little friend for you," said the Granny. Tibbles liked surprising people, and he liked Mog's basket. The Granny said, "Oh, don't be silly, Tibbles. Let Mog have her basket, and you can sleep on my bed." Mog sat in her basket, but she couldn't sleep. She thought of her house. She thought of Debbie. Suddenly a picture of Debbie came into her head. Debbie was in a high place, and there were even higher places all around. It was all too high. Mog didn't think Debbie should be there. "Oh, whatever is the matter, Mog?" said the Granny. "You'd better come in for a snuggle with us." A few days later, the postman brought a card. "It's from Debbie," said the Granny. "She's been to the top of a skyscraper." Mog thought the card smelled of Debbie. Tibbles didn't have a card. He had tea in a saucer instead. He was very fond of tea. Tibbles had an open window instead of a cat flap, and he had a yard to play in. Sometimes Mog and Tibbles played together. Sometimes they chased each other. Sometimes they liked each other, and sometimes they didn't. The Granny gave them nice food to eat. She went to the shops to buy it. They always had the same, but they always thought the others was nicer. The first time the Granny went shopping, Mog had a big surprise. The Granny no longer had a stick. She had wheels instead. She gave Tibbles a ride. "What about you, Mog?" said the Granny, but Mog thought the wheels were too surprising. One day, the Granny put on her best teacups and she said, "We're going to have a party." It was very hot, so they had the party in the yard. A lot of other Grannies came. They were surprised to see Mog. The Granny told them about Mog's people. She said they'd been all over America and now they're ending up at a special Red Indian show. The Granny stayed a long time. Mog got very hot. She thought of Debbie and she wondered what Red Indians were. Suddenly, a picture of Debbie came into her head. Debbie was smiling at a big bird. Mog knew it was a big bird because it had feathers, but it had a face like a person. It was a bird person, and there were more person birds nearby. Why was Debbie smiling? Those big person birds might fly away with her and hurt her. Mog wanted to save Debbie, so she did a big jump. Tibbles liked tea inside him, not outside. Oh dear, said Granny. Oh, silly Mog. Oh dear, said all the other grannies. And your best cup too. Then they went home. That night, Mog did not sleep in the granny's bed. She was too sad. She was still sad in the morning. She thought of Tibbles and the granny being upset. She thought of Debbie and the person birds. Suddenly, a picture of Debbie came into her head. The person birds had not hurt her at all. Instead, they'd given her some of their feathers and a baby person bird as a present. She was smiling and excited, and she was coming home. Mog thought, I must be there to meet her. She ran out of the yard and across the road and down another road and up a tree. After a time, the dog went home. Mog wanted to go home too, but she couldn't get down from the tree. She tried this way and that way, but she was stuck, and it was getting late, and Debbie would be coming home. Mog thought, there's nobody to help me. But there was somebody. Quick, Mog, jump, said the granny. Oh, and Mog jumped. What a big jump Mog had to do. We'll have to get a move on, said the granny. We haven't got much time, said the granny. Oh, I think we can just make it, said the granny. And they did. When Debbie got home, Mog was there to meet her. Oh, we've never had such excitement, said the granny. Mog will have to come and stay with Tibbles again. Mog said nothing. She didn't like things to be exciting. She liked them to be the same. Well, she was a lovely granny, wasn't she? Almost a super granny who came to the rescue. I bet lots of you have got lovely grannies or grandpas or nannies or granddads that you're really missing. I'm missing my mum and dad. They don't live in my house, so I haven't been able to see them either. But you can phone your grandma or your grandpa, and I was wondering if you would like to do an interview with your granny or your grandpa. You could phone them or you could FaceTime them so that you can see them. And I've sent some interview questions to your mums and dads for you to print out, and you could phone up your grandma or your grandpa and ask them some questions about when they were younger, about their school, about the kind of things that they used to eat, maybe about when they met each other and how they fell in love. So I was wondering if that was something you could do, and maybe when you get some of the answers, you could let us know at school. You could email me or you could email Mrs Saunders to tell us about your grandmas and grandpas when they were little. I had a lovely grandma. Here is a picture of my grandma. There's my grandma there. She was called Isabel. And this little person here, I wonder who it could be. That's me when I was a little baby, and that there is my brother. He's called Will. And I'm in a very old-fashioned buggy, aren't I? I bet if you've got younger brothers and sisters, they don't have a buggy like this. So things were very different in those days. And my grandma was a nurse. She was a nurse in the war. Here's a picture of my grandma. It's black and white because she was around a very long time ago. She was born in 1914, and here she is in her nurse's outfit. And she met my grandpa when my grandpa cut his thumb off, and he had to go to the hospital, and she was the nurse that took care of him, and that's how they met, and that's how they fell in love. That's really exciting, isn't it? I wonder how your grandma and grandpa met. So when you've done some questions with grandma and grandpa, maybe you could draw a picture of them. And I'll be sending you some picture frames like this one, so that you could draw a picture of your grandma or grandpa in the middle. I'm sure your picture will be much better than mine. And then I'd like to see some nice writing in the bottom, my grandma. So you can write my grandma or my grandpa or my nanny or whatever you call them. And you could take a photo and email those into school as well. And we'll make a nice display of them. We might put them up on Facebook, okay? But I'm sure when you do your pictures, you'll use lots of colours, much more than I did. I was very boring. I only used a pencil. Maybe you could do some paints if you've got paints at your house. So that's what we'd like you to do. It was lovely to see you. Hope you enjoyed the story. See you all soon.